So thus, now we have a foundation here to go into our topic at a deeper level. Well, we have to base here only. The other notions all were a kind of a very minimum one in relation to something else. This you will get it later, because again we are going into a kind of, we said in the beginning itself, it's a kind of historical search. Therefore, we will come to the next point, and then again we'll come back to Plato, Aristotle and all from a different perspective. Before that, well, we need to complete this introductory part about some preliminary remarks. Okay, and now, in other words, thus Kant emphasized that man is to be studied for his value and dignity. So, in other words, he cannot be simply studied from another perspective other than himself. He is the one who is having value. He is the one who is having dignity. Therefore, he is to be studied from his point of view, not in reference to put it bluntly, not in reference to nature or in reference to something else. So, he is to be studied with the worth and value and dignity that he himself possesses. Therefore, a new approach is coming. Clear? So, value and dignity. Ever since Kant, we have many systematic approaches giving special attention to the study of man. So, ever since Immanuel Kant, well, we find philosophers giving special emphasis to the study of man. Now you look at anthropology, where we have the base. Yes, base is found everywhere, but then the real base, a philosophical sound base, you find in the philosophy of Kant. Hence, the history of philosophical anthropology can be traced back generally to the 17th century. 17th century, and especially to Kant. Always try to remember the name, full name, namely Immanuel Kant. So, in our sketchy outline of searching for a foundation, we have reached in his philosophy for a sound understanding of man. Because he said man is to be studied from a practical point of view with the value and dignity that he has. So, we have ever since Kant systematic approaches, specializing, giving special emphasis to man. Well, if that's the case, we need also now to bring Leibniz. Leibniz is a philosopher who said, God has created, you remember his famous statement, this is the best possible world. This is the best possible world that God could have ever created. There are various possibilities in the mind of God, and God could have created various types, but then what we have is the best possible world. Several questions can be asked to third-year philosophy students regarding this. But then, since you are all in your different houses, well, I limit myself with this particular statement only, because possible questions, number of them. He said, this is the best possible world God could have created in man, created. Why and how? Because when we are talking about Leibniz, we have to talk about Spinoza, because Spinoza's definition of substance, there is only one substance. According to Descartes, there are two substances, namely there is one absolute substance and two relative substances. But then in Spinoza, there is only one substance, and that substance has infinitely many attributes. Substance has infinitely many attributes, and of which we know only two, namely thought and extension. So in other words, with the framework that we have within ourselves, we are able to see in space and time only what we see. Therefore, that it goes, because this is also anthropology, theodicy, ethics is also a time to take all what you have seen in the previous section, but then since lack of time, I don't enter into that. But then we go to Leibniz. According to him, this is the best possible world that God could have created ever. If this is the best possible world, then man has nothing to do with it. That's the problem. He is only to enjoy it. Clear? And what happens? He becomes a puppet in the hands of God. So in other words, he has nothing to do with man. God has created a perfect world. If this is a perfect world, in what way man is going to make it more perfect? There is no possibility. So, that understanding the best possible world, and we are going to relate it with anthropology. Is man a possibility, or is man an impossible possibility? Because why we take up this now is that we are going to see shortly the two-word definitions given in the history of Western philosophy. Namely, at least one you will remember, that is of Plato, fallen soul. Fallen soul. Yes. Human being is defined as a fallen soul. A soul that is fallen from somewhere. Yeah, you know the philosophy of Plato, the ideal world and the real world. So all due to the temptation, fell down, and then, yes, body assumed and all that is. So comes the question, man is an impossible possibility or possible possibility? That is the question. So we need to study more about it. Therefore, we will search into the history of Western philosophy. Leibniz said that this is the best possible world that God ever has created, could have created. When we look at this definition and think it in our own times, we are inclined to say that man in some sense is an impossible possibility. An impossible possibility. In some sense we have to say. Why? He has nothing to realize. So many questions can be asked from this perspective. Anyway, the philosophical vision of Leibniz, this world is the best possible world, turned out to be a provocation and inspiration to further study of man. So, the definition of the statement implied that man has nothing more to do. He is in the best possible world. The understanding of God and cosmos in the philosophy of Leibniz underestimates the role of man as a creative and free being. Creative and free being. And that's why Kant said man is to be studied from his own perspective, because he has his value and dignity. He is not simply one among the many objects of creation. That's the point. So he has his worth, he has his importance. Therefore, we cannot count him just like any other creature here on earth. Okay. The definition or the statement implied that man has nothing more to do. He is in the best possible world. The understanding of God and cosmos in the philosophy of Leibniz underestimates the role of man as a creative and free being. Man becomes a puppet in the hands of God. He is no more responsible for the occurrences or events in the world. That's a problem. Clear? Yes, man becomes one of the, he has created things, he has nothing to do with what is happening in the world. So, he cannot be held, the role of man is creative and free being. So, he cannot be simply considered that way because he is one of the objects like. So, therefore, it has become a kind of provocation for the later generation to think more about anthropology, about man. This was not acceptable to many philosophers, hence they wanted to rethink the question and understand man as a responsible, creative being. So we are still with Kant, who said man is to be studied from the value and dignity and worth that he has, not simply from any other point of view. Okay. Therefore, we need again to say, we need to explain our statement with regard to man. Man an impossible possibility is a question mark. Is man an impossible possibility? Okay, now comes in the history of Western philosophy. If we examine the history of Western philosophy, we find many two-word definitions on man. So, when we go through the history of Western philosophy, we find two-word definitions of man, about man. Yes, some of them, well, you can see. Fallen soul, Plato. According to Plato, man is a fallen. Yes. Aristotle, rational animal. He belongs to the kingdom of animals, but then he is distinguished as a special species with his rationality. So, another definition. An image of the logos, an image of the logos. Logos means word. Yes, that's the definition of philo, not to P-H, Philo of Alexandria. That's all. So, an image of the logos, and then an image of God, origin. An image of God. So, now what does it mean? We will analyze it. Some more. Will to power. You will study immediately. Will to power. Nietzsche. Nietzsche. N-I-E-T-Z-S-C-H-E. S-C-H-E. Nietzsche. So, what is his definition? Yes, will to power. Spinoza, a mode of a substance. A mode of substance. Spinoza. A mode of substance. And then an alienated essence. An alienated essence. Alienation is studied when you studied Karl Marx, but then this is of Ernest Cassirer, an alienated essence. Incarnate spirit by Scheller. utopian being. Bloch, B-L-O-C-H. So, well, enough. So many definitions. Fallen soul, rational animal, an image of the Logos, a mode of substance, image of God, will to power, and so many others. When you come to contemporary Western philosophy, while Johnson dealing with, I'll try to take out also the definitions of man and ethical stand and God notions, because this is of great help for you, for your anthropology. That's why normally we used to start anthropology only a bit later. Clear, no? Yes, once you have the history of Western philosophy, Kierkegaard, Sartre, Nietzsche and all once over, so you get a better foundation. Clear, no? But then we cannot be waiting for, but then we will be also combining. So now we are going to analyze these definitions. And now look at, from the better part of these definitions, it emerges that man combines within himself apparent antithesis. You can write down this sentence. From the better part of these definitions, it emerges that man combines within himself apparent antithesis. From the better part of these definitions, comma, it emerges that man combines within himself apparent antithesis. What does it mean? Now you look at the definitions. Fallen soul, rational animal. Yeah, he is rational, but he belongs to the animal kingdom, animal. If rationality is there, who is he? What is he? If rationality is there, who is he? He is an animal. Follow? Yes, exactly like the buffaloes that had been moving around in the compound. Clear? An image of the Logos. Yes, is Logos means the Word of God and all that. In the beginning was the Word was with God, Word was God and all that. So, an image of the Logos, then mode of a substance, image of God is all an image of God, will to power, innumerable power, but then his will is a limited power, limited will like. So, we are going to recap it again. From the better part of these definitions, it emerges that man combines within himself apparent antithesis. Now, what do you mean by that? You can write down. On the one hand, comma, he is a fallen being. On the one hand, he is a fallen being, comma, on the other, he is said to be a soul which represents, he is said to be a soul which represents divinity. A soul that represents divinity, divine nature. So, then with those things you will be able to understand whether he is an impossible possibility or possible possibility. Yeah, how far are you going to realize your divine within you? The more you realize the more you realize the divinity, you realize that you are limited. So the possibility for realizing it is immeasurable. So that's why the man as an impossible possibility comes. Okay. On the one hand, he is a fallen soul, fallen being. On the other, he is said to be a soul which represents divinity. He is either infinite, or this infinity is unreachable. The more you realize that you know that you are nowhere. So, he is either infinite or this infinity is unreachable. For this reason, it would not be wrong. For this reason, it would not be wrong to define man as an impossible possibility. For this reason, it would not be wrong to define man as an impossible possibility. I take your attention also to the first quotation with the help of which we started our class. What is that? No epoch has had as ours had notions so numerous and varied of man. No epoch has succeeded as ours has in presenting its knowledge about man in such fascinating and effective way, or in communicating this knowledge so rapid in an easy way. Yet it is also true that no epoch has known less than ours what is man. Never has man assumed so problematic an appearance as he has in our times. The more we try to understand man, the more he remains as a mystery. So that is why can we not say he is an impossible possibility? Yeah, in your own life you will understand. The more you grow, you remain yet to be discovered or to be understood. So that is the point. Okay. Therefore, slowly we are going to wind up that section by saying these definitions, means these two-word definitions, point to a tension. These definitions point, means focus, point to a tension towards the infinite, towards the infinite. What do you mean by that? Comma, attention towards transhistoric existence. A transhistoric existence. What do you mean by transhistoric existence? Well, always you studied in the modern philosophy conditions of the possibility of knowledge. Well, always knowledge that we have is always in space and time. And we know only that much within that space and time. Well, you cannot completely comprehend that reality within the space and time. So therefore, there is a transhistoric existence of man. So that's why there is a move towards the infinite, we say. Clear? Okay. Because of which we have to ask ourselves, is this tension is a possible possibility or an impossible possibility? Yes, simply set apart everything. One simple question. You philosophers, you come to know your companions. Yes, from when? Probably June 2000? No, 18. Then June 2018 to 2019 as first years, 2019 to 20 as second years, and then 2020 to 21 as third years. After that, you depart. You have only the knowledge of your companions for 3 years. What do you know about your companion? This is only for 3 years experience. And that is a very important point to be reflected, to be pondered, because we cannot make an emphatic statement about someone saying that I know so and so very well. What is the knowledge that you have about him? He is only, yes, of these 3 years. And you part with. Later you come to know that some of them have become collectors, engineers or district magistrates and all that is clear. Some of them have become priests and all that is. And then, well, yesterday night as I was in my room preparing for the class, well, there appeared a WhatsApp group. Yes, all my students who had been part of Vianney College, Eluru, and then I am also included. Surprise for me. Within half an hour, some 20 names have appeared and the name. All of them are priests. Some of them left also, but then are there. They are very happy with our rector. It's a homecoming. All night, 10:30, 10:45, I put it in silence. In morning, some 30, 40. And then the more, now the other companions will add into that. You see how? But then their knowledge about me is only limited to that space and time. By I explain a little more here, you will understand philosophy in a far better way in your 3rd year than in your 2nd year and in your 1st year. So, well, the immense possibilities within ourselves cannot be known within this 2018, 19, 20, 2021. More we may find the weakness of everyone, clear, no? And we will be looking at each one, oh, there's dum from northeast, yeah, what? What so and so from here? Yeah, dum, this one is PPP. Okay, who is? Oh, he is always sleeping mood. Okay. But then, the possibility of becoming something else, the possibility of becoming developing certain qualities, well, we do not know. And that's what I said, I studied during the class. Well, sometimes when some of you become great, oh, is he punctual? Why? Because in space and time, we know him only as a person who doesn't, he is not punctual. So that is the point. Therefore, there is a lot of things in man to be known. Okay. Then if this tension is a possible possibility or an impossible possibility, whether it's a pure utopia or an eschatological reality, the main question then is, who is this mystery that constantly transcends himself in all what he thinks, in all what he projects? This sentence you can write down, I'll dictate slowly. And produces. So, the main question then is, who is this mystery? We are talking about man. The question then is, who is this mystery that constantly transcends himself? That constantly transcends himself in all what he thinks, Thinks, in all what he thinks, in all what he says, in all what he projects, and in all what he produces, but without reaching the goal of truth, to which he aspires. Without reaching the goal of truth to which he aspires. A-S-P-I-R-E-S. In other words, well, you just think about Dr. A.P.J. Abdul Kalam. His vision of man. Clear? Yeah. You know, as a boy, his kith and kin were all fishermen. You will read in his own famous books. And then they used to go to the sea for catching the fish. And then they get into Yamaha boat. And he used to watch them going. What was the boat doing with the help of Yamaha? It was cutting the water and moving forward. As a student, he says, while looking at what they are doing, he was thinking how to cut the space or cut the air and move forward in the space. You see the imagination of that man? When some people were going on rowing and moving forward on the surface of the sea, seeing that, well, he was thinking how to cut the air, break the air and move forward. Therefore, he has become the father of modern space study. How much more if he were alive, we could have realized the worth of that man. So in other words, well, man remains an open-ended question. Yeah, and as much as he has realized himself, we know, and as much as he has not realized, we don't know anything about. So, whether it is a utopia or an eschatological reality, the main question then is, who is this mystery that constantly transcends himself in all what he thinks, says, projects and produces, but without reaching the goal of truth to which he aspires. Examining the phenomenon of man in our characteristic manner, our contention is that, yes, our contention therefore is that man is not a useless passion. Man is not a useless passion. Man is not a useless passion. Yeah, this is again another two-worded definition. Useless passion. That is a Sartre definition. Sartrist. Useless passion means he has got passion, he is trying to realize it, but at the end he realizes that it is a futile, useless passion. Clear? Okay, man is not examining the phenomenon of man in our characteristic manner. Our contention is that man is not a useless passion as Sartre, S-A-R-T-R-E, as Sartre would state, but rather a possibility. Underline. Man is a possibility. In the concluding reflections of this course, we will try to highlight this aspect.